the project we're doing next is Project Sidewalk, which is a very unique project. It's more on the advocacy and accessibility realm of projects. And so I will go ahead and find Project Sidewalk by using the search at the top. Project Sidewalk. And I'll go ahead and click on it. So it'll show me the project. This is an affiliate project too, so if I'm looking to make sure that all my participation counts towards that 1 million access science count, I need to set up the affiliation. So what I do as a new SciStarter user, this is my, let's pretend it's my first time looking at this, I will visit the page, go to Project Sidewalk, and it will open a new tab. So what will happen here is we'll click visit, we'll be directed to the project website, and when we create an account there to actually participate in the project, we will use the same email address as the one we used for SciStarter. So for me, mine is my personal email. So when I jump over here, I go and click on sign in because I think, yeah, sign up will show up. I'll pick a username. My email address will be the same as the one that I use for SciStarter, and then pick a password. I'll go ahead and say sign in because I do have one already, and I'm got my, oh, my email was required. Oh, I was supposed to do email, not username. My bad. Oops, I'm giles32@gmail.com, and then hit submit. All right, so now we're logged in. If you use both your, if you sign in with your same email on both SciStarter and Project Sidewalk, that links the two accounts. So now all my contributions will be logged to my dashboard so I can see how much work I'm doing. It's great for students who need to prove volunteer service. And it just is a nice little leaderboard for yourself to see which projects you get involved in and how well you do and what are your favorite ones, and just show off to your friends. There are leaderboards you can join through like stall catchers and Zooniverse projects as well. So that's always a fun thing to use as well. So for this one, the reason we do Project Sidewalk is that there is a group of folks out in the University of Washington who got together and said, there's got to be a better way to improve our infrastructure across cities for those who have mobility issues. And so that means for wheelchair users, for cane users, for anyone who just needs to not be tripping on the sidewalk like I do all the time. We want to be able to have good sidewalks. It is the #1 thing in cities that we need to worry about because it's all about accessing the rest of your community. And we really do have quite a few issues with sidewalks, as you'll notice going through this project too. So I can choose from a multitude of places. The city or the University of Washington, or Washington University, Washington State. Did I do the right? Yes, washington.edu. Yep, that's the right one. I'm like, am I saying the right university? It has partnerships with a bunch of different cities. So we could go all over the world. We can go to Mexico City in Mexico. We can go to La Piedad in Mexico. We can go to San Pedro Garcia in Mexico. We can go to the Netherlands in Amsterdam. And then we can come back to the States, Illinois, New Jersey, Ohio, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio again, Montana, or no, MO is St. Louis, so Missouri, Oregon in this case. There's a bunch of different places, Pennsylvania too. And so you can pick wherever you want to go. I would like to travel the world. Let's go to, let's see, I've done Mexico City before. Let's go to the Netherlands and see what that's like. So we're going to start exploring Amsterdam, and we'll have two options. So you can virtually travel through cities and complete missions to find and label accessibility issues. So you can go through the whole process of labeling. You can also be a part of the validation, I'm going to call it a game, where you are basically validating other people's observations. So if you're wondering, what if I make a mistake or I don't do it correctly? That's okay, because we do have a secondary validation process in Project Sidewalk to ensure that the data quality is great by the time it makes it to the final data set. So in this program, we're looking for where curb ramps are, and if they exist in general. We're looking at obstacles in paths and also surface problems. So for those of you who trip while walking in a straight line like I do, it's sometimes because the sidewalk is built up, or like there's trees that are uprooting the sidewalk. And that doesn't make it really easy to walk on. So instead, we go through and find those issues, because then cities who collect this data after the fact, once all the data has been evaluated, they can go and say, all right, here are the problem areas. You can create like a heat map essentially, to see where the biggest problem areas are and where urban development needs to be impacting and working to benefit. So In this case, we're going to go through a tutorial. So mine is pushing me through a tutorial. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it properly. And in here, in this street view image, we have drawn an arrow to a curb ramp. Let's label it. So we have an arrow over here, okay? We're going to click on curb ramp, curb. And then we're going to click on curb ramp beneath the flashing yellow area to label it. So I'm going to click right here because that's going to place the marker. Ooh, and it had a sound effect. I didn't know it did that. That's fun. I don't know if you could hear the sound effect, but it was like a dropping water, water drop, whatever the word is. Now you can rate the quality. So we're not just looking at where things are and if they exist in general, we're also trying to grade them so we can see the severity of the problems. So on this one, where 1 is passable, so we're looking at it's fine, and then otherwise it's really bad when it's 5. So high severity example is like this one, where it just looks really terrible, really terrible. If it's a good low severity example, that just means that the curb ramps look fine. They look passable. They look like there wouldn't be an issue getting around there. So this one is wide enough, apparently. So this one is wide. It follows along that path of the walkway across the street. We're going to rate it as a 1. So I'm going to go ahead and hit 1. And then we're going to do the next thing, which is click the crosswalk button to label the painted crosswalk. So we're not looking at just the curb ramps or the sidewalks. We're also looking at, is there even a method to get across the street? Crosswalk. And now I'm going to label where it is. There's a crosswalk. Now you can rate the quality of the crosswalk, where 1 is passable and 5 is not passable for a wheelchair user. Because the surface is smooth, I don't see any degraded street issues. The paint isn't even fading, so we know exactly where the lines are. That looks fine. We're going to go with a 1 because it is super passable. Ta-da! Ooh, and now I get to drag my screen across. Drag. Oh, there we go. Click the zoom in button to get a closer look. So I do that. We're looking at a curb ramp again, so I'm being told to hit this button. I won't be told these buttons all the time. I have to know what I'm looking at. So I look at the curb ramp and then I rate the quality again. So this one, let's see here. It looks pretty wide. Doesn't look like there's any issues with the surface. So I'm going to go with passable. And then, you should rate this as a 2. Okay, so why? It is a high quality curb ramp, but there's no landing space at the top of the ramp. Ooh, okay, so good thing to notice. Let me exit out of, or maybe I should just, okay, so if you'll notice in the background here, there's a curb ramp, but then it goes straight into the dirt. So if you have a way to get up, but then it doesn't like straighten out and level out, that's what I mean. It doesn't level out at the end. It's not as passable. So we'll say it's okay, but it's not the best. So let me change that to a 2. And when it's not fully passable, when it's not a 1, that means we have to add tags to make sure we understand what the problem is. So not enough landing space is the issue. So I'm going to select there. And it disappeared, but let me double check that you know where it is. Not enough landing space. And then we'll hit OK. Notice that there is no curb ramp at the end of this crosswalk. So right here, there is a crosswalk, but then all of a sudden you can't actually use it. They just assumed this one would work. So you have to cross into the other street to go up the ramp, which is a big problem, right? We don't want that in a city. So I'm going to go ahead and hit on missing curb ramp. Click there. Since this missing curb ramp is next to an existing curb ramp, this accessibility problem is less severe, although you do have to walk into a street to get to it, so not that great. But it's got severity, so we'll go ahead and hit that. But because it's only somewhat severe, we can label out why it is. So if there was no alternate route, then that would be a problem. But right now we have a route present, so we're good there. In addition to those ramps and looking at the crosswalk and the sidewalk, we're also going to look at the pedestrian signals. So on the pole, you can see a light telling pedestrians that they can cross the street. Click pedestrian signal button to label it. So I say pedestrian signal. Now let's label it by clicking beneath the flashing yellow arrow. You can see the light higher up in the pole, but we ask you to add the label at the bottom of the pole because it gives us a more accurate location. And this is street mapping. All right, so now we're going to zoom out. And then we're going to cross around again. Whee! All right, so we have a painted crosswalk, so we're going to go ahead and hit crosswalk and then click below onto the street. This surface is smooth and the paint isn't fading again, so it's pretty much passable. There's no problem there. All right, moving this way. Keep looking. Oh, okay. So to speed things up for us, so we don't have to go through the whole tutorial, we also see curb ramps right there. And there's a pedestrian signal labeled for us as well. In the future, we'll label all of them. So we'll have to make sure that we've labeled every single thing, which is helpful to see these buttons at the top. So we've got curb ramp, missing curb ramp, obstacle and path, which we'll get to, surface problem, also to be gotten to. No sidewalk, also an example coming soon, crosswalk, which we've seen, and pedestrian signal. So we'll have to label all of those as we see them. And here's another example right here. So no sidewalk happens. So we click on no sidewalk. It's an interesting time to get up a ramp and then suddenly turn the direction you need to go, and then whoops, you're in grass. That makes it a lot more challenging. So that's a no bueno. And then here, there's no sidewalk on the other side of the street. This is an accessibility problem, but there is a sidewalk on the other side of the street. So we're gonna go ahead and label it as a 3. And then say, street has no sidewalk. And then also ends abruptly. How rude. We have suddenly a stopping point. All right. Okay, so now make sure to add only those 2 tags. So the other options there were possibly an issue. So no sidewalks, shared pedestrian car space, that's not true. Gravel or dirt road, not so much. Pedestrian lane parking, street has a sidewalk. Yeah, we're good to go. Okay. Ah, did mine get stuck? All right, or are they telling me to explore? Okay, then I can hit this button. Let's see if that lets me move on. My computer might be frozen. Come on. Don't be frozen. All right, let's hit explore. See if that works. Maybe I missed something. 3. Ends abruptly and street has a sidewalk. Did I just mark the right one? Street has a sidewalk. Okay, my bad. My bad. You got to make sure you read it. I like to avoid reading, and that will cause you issues for this. Okay, and then I move this way, grab and view as I am. Okay, good. Now click on curb ramp button, because we're going to label this curb ramp. Rate the curb ramp. I have to choose. I can also write notes in the description box if I want to. Okay, so I'm gonna hit OK for a second. This one looks pretty wide. I don't see any issues at this point, so I'm gonna go ahead and say it's passable, and we're gonna hope for the best. Okay, pedestrian signal, I see one right here. We label it at the floor, so we know exactly where it is. And then I scroll over. All right, now figure out where to go next. You will follow the red line on this mini map. So am I facing the right way? Yes, I am. Okay. Okay, you can also we will also guide you via navigation messages shown in the area. You can click on them to turn or move. All right, so go straight. Great, you move down the street. Visited parts of the route are marked in green in the mini map, right? So down here is already done. But we haven't done these areas. So looking for more issues, in this case, notice how there is a crosswalk with pedestrian signals, but no curb ramp. So how on earth am I supposed to get up there if I am on wheels? So that's a problem. So yes, I see the missing curb ramps. In the future, you will need to add all the labels, but right now they're just having us finish the tutorial. So you can track your labels. These are all labeled for me. Okay. If you get stuck, I can hit this button to move to a different location. So it kind of like resets it like Zooniverse does. When you hit the refresh button, it's like, okay, try a different one. Try a different area. That might work better. And then I have a couple of examples. So great, you've learned how to use the interface. Label the following accessibility attributes in Google Street View that significantly affect how wheelchair users move about the city. These are accessible. Curb ramps are good. They're wide. They lead to more street area. These are not great. These are just missing in general. The ramps are absolutely gone. When obstacles are there, it's a problem. And sidewalks with surface problems are also a problem. If we have random grass spots, that's not exactly the most accessible street. Okay. All right, so label these accessibility features in Haven Lane. Oh gosh, that's right. It's in the Netherlands. In Havenland Noordoost. Why not? Okay, sounds good. All right, so correct label, placing it there. Cool, we know how to mark it. And they're giving us examples. Signage, why is this wrong? The sign does not indicate when pedestrians can cross the street, so do not put a label there for that one. It's just that's a notification for a car. We don't care about what the cars do or what they think. All right, do not place a label here. It is not actually a signal to pedestrians. Okay, that's a good mistake to be knowledgeable about. And I can also come back to this, I believe. So I can scroll through and see what might be a good idea. We did not do examples of obstacles in the path, so I'll go ahead and show you some of those. So fire hydrants can be an issue because they're in the middle of if they're in the middle of a sidewalk, that's a problem. Poles as well, same deal. But this is not an issue because it's temporary. There's also ample space. Ample space. A traffic cone is not on the pedestrian pathway in this case, and it's definitely not an obstacle. So we don't need to worry about those things. The car seems to be moving in the image and should not be labeled as an obstacle. Yeah, this is very temporary. They're about to walk by or drive by. All right, issues where there are surface problems. So if there's broken up street, impossible or uncomfortable to cross. Crosswalks, I think we've seen the rest of them. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start mission so we can get started. And then I'll jump to validation because that is a quicker process too. So we'll do one of these and then move on to validation. All right, so I'm watching this right here because we're seeing where we need to go. So eventually I'll be going this direction. But until then, let's mark out the street. So this is also in a different country, which is interesting. I don't think I've ever done one where I'm looking at different types of signals. Like, does this mean a crosswalk? I think it might. And so this is where, oops. I don't want to move areas though, because I was going in just a full circle for fun. Okay, so let's see, missing curb ramp. I definitely see missing curb ramp. So missing curb ramp. Unclear if needed, alternate route present, no alternate route. So it looks like it's blocked by a car and can be blocked by a car. Let me get rid of that first and zoom in a little bit. Zoom in. So we've got an area right here that might be the curb ramp. Same thing here. So I guess there is some, I'll go ahead and mark those as curb ramps and just say, let's see, tactile warning is not there. All right, it's, I guess, passable. They might know better than I do that that's pretty normal in the Netherlands. So, all right, I'll go ahead and hit passable. Same thing here. Curb ramp. And just say it's just okay. It's passable enough. And then I'll go with crosswalk. That doesn't look like a crosswalk. That looks more like a that looks more like something you would use as that looks like a bump. Anyone who's listening in, does that look like a bump to you all? Like a speed hump? Yeah, I bet it is. That's not a walkway. Okay, so let's go with no side, or what would it be? Obstacle path, service problem, crosswalk. All right, so I'll hit crosswalk and just say there isn't one. No pedestrian priority, very long crossing. Oh, level with sidewalk. Nope, that's not what we want. Okay, I might need help for this one. Let's see. No crosswalk. Okay, maybe actually we should add it into this. So if I click on this, not level of street, no, that's not true. Doesn't change. Okay. So no clear, I'll add it in here. No clear, what's it called? Crosswalk. Oops. Okay. All right, and then I will zoom, or I'll go straight actually. So we'll go this way. Oh wait, just kidding. Let me go backwards. My bad. We have to go all the way around. So if it's the same case, it'll make it easy to go around all of them. And then I will switch. All right, so we've got a curb ramp here. Doesn't look like a lot of space though, so I'm gonna say narrow and then hit OK. And then on this side, same thing here. This is very narrow. Curb ramp, very narrow, but possibly doable. And then again, no crosswalk. Try that one. No markings. Oops. Where are the crosswalk? Okay, I've marked it in two different ways just to make sure that I know one of them is being read correctly. Okay, and then I go around to this end and do it on this side as well. Curb ramp, it's right there. It looks fine. Curb ramp. Looks fine. Oops. And then here, I'm going to mark it again as non-existent. No markings. Okay. Great. Okay, so I've gone all the way around. Oh, no, one more. Okay. Curb ramp, it exists. It's super narrow. But they don't mark out where the trees, where this, where the cars can start, the parking spots are. It looks quite narrow. And then over here, oh, over here it's just completely blocked. That's not good. Not enough space, narrow, and I'll leave it there. Okay. And then again here, no markings. Oops. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna pause there. So you could go all the way around the city and like kind of explore a different country in the Netherlands if you would like to, and see what's going on in this area. I'm gonna just scroll forward and see if anything interesting is viewable. Doesn't, just looks like a normal street view. Nice. If you ever go to Amsterdam, look for the street, see how it is. For a different part of using this activity, you can also hit the button validate, like I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So if I click validate, this is what we'll be doing. So our mission is to validate 10 curb ramp labels. So we'll be seeing if we agree with what was suggested by the citizen scientist. So I can go through and see some examples. So if this was labeled as a curb ramp, that's wrong because it's not a curb ramp, it's a driveway. So we don't need to be labeling those. Driveways to garages, again, they should not be curb ramps. There's no way for a human to be coming from the street to that sidewalk from there. That's an unwise person walking around or rolling around to get to that area. Not great. All right, so let's see. Is this a curb ramp? Let's see if it lets me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so if I scroll around, I can see where I am in the world. So I'm looking specifically at this section. But do I notice that it's a street? Okay, that does look like a curb ramp to me. So let's go to check. Okay, so points into traffic. Is this a curb ramp? Looks like one to me. I kind of want to back out a little bit more. Curb ramp. Yeah, that's definitely a curb ramp. Because in order to cross the street, you do need some method, and it looks like that would be the one. All right, curb ramp. Is this a curb ramp? Oh, thanks. So if I zoom into that one, oh, the zoom's not working. All right, so if I zoomed into this one, correct examples would look like this. It's a missing curb ramp. So we might have an issue there. Let's see. Incorrect examples. Sidewalk to driveway. Nope. Driveway. Nope. Okay, so this one is a missing curb ramp. Let's see how it was not level of street. Okay, but that is marked correctly. Okay, yes. Ta-da. All right, is this a curb ramp? Let's find out. Looks like one with to me. Not the best, but it is the way to cross the street. So interesting how they're labeled. Okay. This Amsterdam does need to be reviewed. Not great. Okay, cool. Yep, it is. All right, this area, severity 1, is this a curb ramp? No, it's in the middle of the street. The curb ramp would be on the sides. Let's double, yeah, so this would be the curb ramp. This would just be like a different section. Different section. This is though, because it's got more walking space, more pedestrian walkway over there. I think. Is this a curb ramp? Yes. Or it's meant to be. Let's see, is this supposed to be a ramp? It looks like it was meant to be based on what it looks like. Do a twirl around here. Yeah, and it's not a driveway, so I call that a curb ramp. Is this? Yes, it looks like it is. Yep, both sides are lowered. This is a street, so it's not going straight into the street, it goes across the way. Ooh. This is a weird one. Yeah, that's not a driveway. It goes straight into the street though, and there's no other route. Yeah, so yes, except it does go straight into the street. This one, not level the street, I agree with that, and it is a curb ramp, yes. Hey, okay, you just validated 10 curb ramp labels. I was unsure about 0 of them, but my overall total was 10 because I said yes for 9. All right, so this is us validating all that data. And we're right at the end of our half hour, which is perfect. So I'm gonna pause there for a moment to check in on our schedule. So if you are doing Project Sidewalk, as a reminder, you can sign up with your same email as your SciStarter account, and that helps mark out contributions. So if I go to my dashboard, I'll be able to see how often I participate. Oops, wrong one. Dashboard, main dashboard. And then I can see my many contributions, which will show up eventually. I have too many projects on my account, so it gets a little bit challenging for it to show up for us. Okay, 9 out of 17. Most recently, let's see if it shows up yet. Scroll. Project Sidewalk, there it is. So I've got Project Sidewalk on my list, so it's tracking appropriately, which is perfect. And today I've done, or since April 4th, I've done 63 contributions that have been tracked by my account. So woohoo, go me.